Lecture 3 Assignment Discussion Statement of Cash Flows. This is 3.1 multiple choice questions of your book. Number 1. Statement number 1. A statement of cash flows when used alone provides information that enables the users to evaluate the changes in the net assets of an entity, its financial structure, and its ability to affect the amounts and timing of cash flows. It is correct. The statement is correct. The statement of cash flows really provides information that enables the users to evaluate the changes in the net assets of an entity, its financial structure, and its ability to affect the amounts and timing of cash flows. However, the statement of cash flow alone cannot provide that information. The statement of cash flow, together with the other reports and together with the other financial statements, will provide that information that would enable the users to evaluate the changes in the net assets of an entity, its financial structure, and its ability to affect the amounts and timing of cash flows. So, therefore, statement number 1 is incorrect. Statement number 2, cash flow information is useful in assessing the ability of the entity to generate cash and cash equivalents. This statement is correct. It is one of the benefits of the statement of cash flows. So for number 1, the correct answer is letter B. Only the second statement is correct. Number 2, which of the following statement is correct? Statement 1. Cash flow information enables the users to develop a model to assess and compare the past and present cash flows of different entities. Statement 1 is incorrect. Cash flow information provided by the statement of cash flows enable the users to develop a model to assess and compare the future cash flows of different entities, not the past and present cash flows of different entities. Statement number 2. Cash flow information is often used as an indicator of the amount, timing, and certainty of past cash flows. Statement number 2 again is incorrect. Cash flow information provided by the statement of cash flow is often used as an indicator of the amount, timing, and certainty of future cash flows of the entity. So therefore, the correct answer is letter D. Neither 1 nor 2. Both the statements are incorrect. Number 3. Statement 1. Cash equivalents are short-term, highly liquid investment that are readily convertible into known amounts of cash and which are subject to significant risk of changes in value. Statement number 1 is incorrect. Cash equivalence is not subject to significant risk but to insignificant risk of changes in value. Since highly liquid investment siya, and then for short term only, therefore hindi siya exposed and to significant risk. Example of cash equivalence time deposits, usually 2 months or 3 months lang yung term niya. Then after that, mako-convert na siya into cash. Short-term investment, nag-invest ka, after 3 months makukuha mo siya. So statement number 1 is incorrect. Next, statement number 2, cash flow information enhances the comparability of the reporting of operating performance by different entities because it eliminates the effect of using different accounting treatments for the same transaction and events. Statement number 2 is correct. In the statement of cash flows, when providing the cash flow information, we are using the cash basis of accounting. So therefore, we are comparing different entities. More comparable siya kasi the same lang. The statement of cash flow, cash basis kayong lahat. So therefore, it eliminates the effect of using different accounting treatments for the same transaction and events. So therefore, the correct answer is letter B. Only the second statement is correct. Statement number 1. Financing activities are activities that results in changes in the size and composition of the contributed equity and borrowings of the entity. Again, what is financing activity? Financing activities are those activities that pertains to the transaction of the entity with the shareholders or the lenders and creditors of the entity. So meaning, statement number 1 is correct. Because financing activities are activities that result in changes in the size and composition of the contributed equity and borrowings of the entity. So, mahuhulog sa financing activities yung transactions natin with the capital providers of the entity. Sino ba nagpo-provide ng resources or capital sa entity? Si creditor and then si shareholders, yung owners. So, therefore, it will change the size and composition of the contributed equity and borrowings or liability of the entity. So, statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2, operating activities are the principal revenue-producing activities of the entity involving acquisition and disposal of long-term assets. Statement number 2 is incorrect. Statement number 2 is incorrect because of the last phrase, involving acquisition and disposal of long-term assets. Involving acquisition and disposal of long-term assets pertains to the investing activities of the entity. The operating activities pertains to the principal revenue-producing activities of the entity. Pero, yung mga transactions pertaining to the acquisition and disposal of long-term assets or investments of the entity, yun na yung investing activities. Cash inflows and cash outflows from the acquisition and disposal of long-term investments under na yan sa investing activities. Yung operating activities naman, yung principal revenue producing activities lang ni entity. So, for example, si Fiesta Appliances, yung principal revenue producing activities niya, magbenta ng appliances. So, therefore, lahat na nare-receive niya na cash sa pagbenta ng appliances, classified as cash flow from operating activities. Well, for example, kumuha siya ng building, okay? Bumili ng building si Fiesta Appliances, office building, para sa entity nila, para sa company. Yung pagbili niya ng office building is not part of the principal revenue producing activities of the entity. Hindi yun yung normal business na entity. Hindi naman talaga siya bumibili ng office building. So, investment lang yun. Long-term asset lang yun. So, therefore, mahuhulog yung transaction na yun. Yung cash outflow na yun, yung bumili siya ng office building under investing activities of the entity. So again, statement number 1 correct. Statement number 2 is incorrect. So the correct answer is letter A. Only the first statement is correct. Next, number 5. The following statements are correct except letter A. The entity shall prepare the statement of cash flows and shall present it as an integral part of its financial statements for each period for which financial statements are presented. Statement A is correct. The statement of cash flow is an integral part of the financial statements of the entity. Letter B correct. Cash comprises cash on hand and demand deposit. Letter C, cash equivalents are held for the purpose of meeting the investment purposes of the business. Incorrect. Why? Again, cash equivalents are those short-term, highly liquid investment. Ibig sabihin, short-term lang siya. Usually, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, ganun lang. So, kung yung purpose ni entity is mag-invest for investment purposes, hindi pwede na mag-invest lang siya through cash equivalents. So, cash equivalents are not held for the purpose of meeting the investment purposes of the business. Usually, yung held for the purpose of meeting the investment purposes of the business, ito na yung mga long-term investment, long-term assets. So, therefore, letter C is incorrect. Letter D, bank borrowings are generally considered to be financing activities. Letter D, these statements is correct. Because again, yung financing activities, yan yung mga activities that results to the changes in the size and composition of both the equity and borrowings or liability of the entity. So, yun yung mga transaction with the shareholders, with the creditors or lenders of the entity. So, therefore, letter D is correct. So, the incorrect statement here is letter C. Next, number 6. Which of the following statements is correct? Statement 1. The entity presents its cash flow from operating, investing, and financing activities in a manner which is most appropriate to its business. Statement number 1 is correct. And presenting the statement of cash flows, kinakategory natin yung cash flow from operating, investing, and financing activities of the entity. So, and which is most appropriate to its business. Kasi for example, walang investing, edi wala tayong investing na ilalagay sa statement of cash flows. So, statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2, cash flows from operating activities are primarily derived from the result and changes in the size and composition of the contributed equity and borrowings of the entity. Statement number 2 is incorrect. Again, yung mga activities that result in changes in the size and composition of the contributed equity and borrowings of the entity pertains to the cash flow from financing activities. Statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2 is incorrect. Therefore, the correct answer is letter A. Only statement number 1 is correct. Number 7. Which of the following statement is correct? Statement number 1. Cash payments or refunds of income taxes, unless they can be specifically identified with financing and investing activities, are cash flow from operating activities. Statement number 1 is correct. Cash payments or refund of income taxes, yung income taxes paid by the entity and then yung income taxes received by the entity dahil merong tax refund, classified general rule as operating activities. Since the income taxes is part of the computation of the net income. Remember the indirect method, dumadaan tayo sa net income. Lahat ng items na naka-epekto sa net income, ginagamit natin para makuha natin yung cash basis na net income or the cash flow from operating activities using the indirect method. So, pag hindi natin ma-identify kung sa financing and investing activities siya, general rule, part siya ng operating activities. Next, number 2. Cash receipts and payments of an insurance entity for premiums and claims, annuities, and other policy benefits are cash flow from operating activities. Statement number 2 is correct. It pertains to the insurance expense of the entity. Insurance expense paid by the entity is part of the operating activities of the entity. So, therefore, the correct answer is letter C, both 1 and 2. 8. The following statements are correct except letter A, only expenditure that result in a recognized asset and the statement of financial position are eligible for classification as investing activities. Letter A is correct. So, only expenditure that result in a recognized asset. Ano pala yung investing activities? Yan yung mga activities na about sa pag-invest ni entity sa long-term asset or long-term investment. So, therefore, dapat meron tayong na-recognize na asset. Either investment or machinery or property or meron tayong dinesposed. Meron tayong binenta na asset. So, again, letter A is correct. Yung letter B naman, cash payments and receipts from contracts held for dealing or trading purposes are cash flow for investing activities. Letter B is incorrect. Why? Again, those that are held for dealing or trading purposes, meaning kasi ng trading, yan yung held for sale and the normal operating business ng entity, normal operation siya ng entity, held for trading siya, purposes, are classified and should be classified as cash flows from operating activities and not from investing activities. So again, merong contract. Example yung contract held for dealing or trading, yung contract with the contract with the customers. So held for trading siya. Or kaya contract with the supplier, held for trading siya. Ba? For example, si entity A and then si customer, meron silang contract. Yung contract nila every month, magpo-provide ng ganitong products si entity A kay customer. So, therefore, meron silang contract. Held for trading yung contract nila. Kasi nagte-trade sila. So, therefore, that is part of the cash flow from operating activities of the entity and not cash flow from investing activities of the entity. Iba din naman yung derivative trading, yung sa Forex, kasi part na yun ng investing activities of the entity. Other investment na kasi yun. Ito naman kasi held for trading in the normal operations of the entity. So, dapat part siya ng operating activities of the entity. So, letter B is incorrect. Again, yung question, the following statements are correct except, so the correct answer for number 8 is letter B. Letter B is incorrect. So, let's proceed for letter C. Cash receipts from sales of property, plant, and equipment are cash flow for investing activities. Correct. Property, plant, and equipment, long-term assets to. Therefore, part talaga siya ng investing activities. Again, cash inflow and cash outflow from acquisition and disposal of long-term assets such as long-term investment and property, plant, and equipment are part of cash flows from investing activities. Next, letter D, cash receipts from the repayment of advances and loans made to other entities, other advances and loans of a financial institution are cash flows from investing activities. So, statement letter D is correct. Bakit investing activities? Ito kasi cash receipt from the repayment of advances and loans made to other entities. Ibig sabihin tayo yung nagpautang. Tayo si creditor. Ibig sabihin tayo si investor. Tayo si lender. So, ibig sabihin nag-invest tayo. Binayaran tayo. Cash receipts from the repayment of advances and loans. So, hindi to financing activities na pinautang tayo or may nag-invest sa atin. Kumbaga dito, tayo yung nag-provide. And then, binayaran na tayo. So, cash receipts from the repayment of advances and loans made to other entities. Kasi pag nag-advance ka to other entities, meaning nag-invest ka sa kanila. Sa part nila, ikaw yung creditor. And then, sa part ni entity, siya yung investor. So, therefore, this cash flow should be classified as cash flows from investing activities. Number 9. Which of the following statements is correct? Statement number 1, cash payments by a lessee for the reduction of the outstanding liability relating to an operating lease or cash flow from financing activities. In accounting, we have a contract of lease between the lessee and the lessor. So, sa lessee, siya yung nagre-renta. Sa lessor, yung nagpaparenta. So, therefore, pag meron tayong operating lease, pag operating lease lang yan, yung nire-record natin, debit rent expense, then credit cash. So, cash payments by a lessee, pag nagbayad daw siya kay lessor, classified daw siya as cash flow from financing activities. So, statement number 1 is incorrect. Kasi yung rent expense paid, yung rent paid ni lessee, classified yun dapat as operating activity. Since classified yung lease as operating lease. So, therefore, statement number 1 is incorrect. For statement number 2 naman, cash proceeds from issuing debentures, loans, notes, bonds, mortgages, and other short-term or long-term borrowings are cash flow from financing activities. Statement number 2 is correct. Kasi nga, borrowings to. So, nag-issue ka ng debentures, loans, notes, bonds para makautang ka. So, may natanggap kang pera. So, therefore, yung cash inflow na yun classified as financing activities because it results to changes sa liability ni entity. So, the correct answer for number 9 is letter B, 2 only. For number 10, which of the following statements is correct? Number 1, the direct method of reporting cash flows from operating activities suggests the effects of transaction of a non-cash nature. Statement number 1 is incorrect. This pertains to the indirect method. So, under indirect method, yung cash flow from operating activities is computed by adjusting the net income based on accrual basis to convert it into cash basis net income. So, ina-adjust natin yung effect ng transaction of a non-cash nature. Statement number 2 naman, the indirect method of reporting cash flow from operating activities discloses the major classes of gross cash receipt and gross cash payment. Statement number 2 is incorrect. Bakit incorrect? It pertains to the direct method of reporting cash flows. Pag sinabing direct method, kumbaga, and computing the cash flow from operating activities, consider natin yung major classes of gross cash receipts. For example, cash receipt from customer, cash disbursement for suppliers. So, yung major classes of gross cash receipt and gross cash payments nakapresent sa pag-compute ng cash flows from operating activities. That is the direct method. So again, statement number 1 is incorrect. It pertains to the indirect method. Then statement number 2 is incorrect also because it pertains to the direct method. So the correct answer for number 10 is letter D, neither 1 nor 2. This is the end of discussion for Lecture 3 assignment. God bless.